Okay, so I think this would be a good opportunity for you to do the exact same things with our positive externality problem. And then I will just come back and start doing it, or sorry, come back and then I'll go over the solution. So figuring out the tax is the first thing. And the tax here is basically just like the same before. We're gonna want to find the prices such that our sort of quantity transacted, or sorry, our quantity, the quantity of the social optimal is what the parties want to actually transact. And so what we end up with is that it's this sort of $2 tax. But remember, this is a subsidy, or to the right of the market equilibrium. And so we can say it's either we can say it's either a subsidy of $2 or a tax of minus $2. They're exactly the same. So we have this subsidy at $2, and that ensures that the quantity transacted is our social optimum quantity. Let's do like we did with the taxes, sorry, with the negative externality example, let's do the welfare implications. So our consumer surplus, I'm not going to sort of draw the triangles, we're just going to go straight into it. Our consumer surplus is 1/2 of sort of down here is our sort of point we're considering to form the triangle with, right? So we see that it's 1/2 of 6 minus 0, and then 10 minus 4. And so that ends up being $18. Producer surplus, that ends up just basically being the same thing. And we're going off of this point, just as a reminder. It's 6 minus 0, and then 6 minus 0. That's also equal to 18. Government surplus, well, government ends up having to pay this tax, right? Or sort of pay this subsidy or pay a negative tax. And so we think about it as -2 times 6. In other words, it's minus 18, minus 12, minus $12. And so with our sort of consumer surplus plus our producer surplus plus our government surplus, well, that's equal to a 12, that's a 6, so it's a 24. And so if you remember back to last week, we said that the total surplus under the market equilibrium was equal to 25. And so we end up losing $1 of surplus. But now let's actually consider sort of the externality value. That is how much sort of the bystander gets from this government policy. Well, we have a $2 sort of social benefit, and then we look at the quantity of the social optimal minus the quantity of the market equilibrium. And so because of this policy, we'll now have 6 units transacted, whereas before we'll have only had 5 units transacted. And so this policy gives our bystander $2 in value. And so while we do lose a unit of sort of, oops, let's do a different color. While we do lose a unit of sort of total surplus compared to the market equilibrium, we gain $2 in value to the bystander. And so the bystander is sort of better off. And yeah, so this is a transaction that if we sort of considered, if the government was acting in the interest of the bystander, they would actually sort of fund this externality. They would pay this surplus because it ends up with a higher, everyone's sort of better off. The consumers are better off, the producers are better off, and the bystander is better off.